Most people drift through life without ever truly understanding themselves. They wake up, go through the motions, and react to whatever comes their way, never questioning why they do what they do or where they're headed. But if you want to change, if you want to rise beyond your current limitations, you have to stop and take a hard, honest look at yourself. That's the first step. You don't just stumble into growth. It requires intention. It demands awareness. See, most people avoid self-reflection because it's uncomfortable. It forces them to confront their flaws, their failures, their weaknesses. And let's be honest, no one wants to face the truth that they're not as disciplined as they should be, that they waste time, that they let fear dictate their choices. It's far easier to distract yourself, to stay busy, to blame the world for your circumstances. But there's a cost to that. When you refuse to look within, you give up control over your own life. You become a product of your environment instead of the architect of your future. And here's the thing, you already know what's holding you back, deep down, you do. You know the habits that are sabotaging you, you know the people who drain your energy, you know where you're falling short. The problem isn't ignorance, the problem is avoidance. But avoidance doesn't make the problem disappear, it just makes it worse. The longer you refuse to confront reality, the more powerless you become, the more your potential slips through your fingers. So if you want to shift your energy, if you want to step into a stronger version of yourself, you need to stop running, you need to stop making excuses, you need to sit down in silence without distractions and ask yourself, who am I really? What do I stand for? What patterns am I repeating? What am I doing every single day that's keeping me weak, stuck, and frustrated? These questions aren't easy. They might make you uncomfortable. Good, that's the point. Growth is supposed to be uncomfortable. Strength isn't built in comfort. It's built in confrontation with yourself, with your past, with your own limitations. And once you get clear on where you are, you can start moving forward. You can start taking responsibility. Because here's the truth. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you want. And if you don't take ownership of your weaknesses, they will own you. Every time you ignore them, you let them grow stronger. But the moment you face them, you strip them of their power. This is why self-reflection isn't just some philosophical exercise. It's a weapon. It's how you separate yourself from the masses. The world is filled with people who refuse to look inward. That's why they're stuck, repeating the same patterns, living the same unfulfilled lives year after year. But that doesn't have to be you. You can choose differently. You can choose to be brutally honest with yourself, to face what needs to be faced, to do the deep work that most people run from. And when you do that, when you commit to self-reflection as a way of life, you become unstoppable. Because now you're not reacting blindly. You're not a slave to your emotions or your circumstances. You see your own patterns, and because you see them, you can break them. You see your weaknesses, and because you see them, you can strengthen them. You see the gaps between who you are and who you could be, and now you have the power to close them. That's the path to transformation. That's how you shift your energy. That's how you stop being at war with yourself and start moving with purpose, with clarity, with an unshakable sense of direction. And if you can do that, if you can master the art of looking inward, nothing, absolutely nothing, can hold you back. Most people spend their lives trapped in a prison they can't even see. A prison built out of other people's opinions, expectations, and judgments. And the worst part? They hold the key to their own freedom, but they refuse to use it. They chase approval, they seek validation, they shape themselves into whatever they think will make them acceptable in the eyes of others. But in doing so, they betray themselves. They trade their authenticity for acceptance. And that's a terrible bargain. You can see this everywhere. People filter their personalities the same way they filter their pictures. They present a version of themselves that they think will be liked, that will be praised, that will fit neatly into the mold society has given them, but deep down they're exhausted. Because living for the approval of others is a never-ending game, one that you will never win. No matter what you do, no matter how much you try to please people, someone will always disapprove. Someone will always find something to criticize. And if your self-worth is built on their opinions, you will forever be at their mercy. That's not a life of strength. That's not a life of freedom. That's a life of quiet desperation. Because when you live for external validation, you abandon yourself. You stop making decisions based on what you truly want, and you start making them based on what will make you look good, what will earn you praise, what will keep you from being judged, and that's dangerous. Because the moment you let the crowd dictate your path, you surrender your power. You become a puppet, controlled by the shifting opinions of people who don't even know who they are themselves. So the real question is this: why? Why do you care so much about what they think? Why do you place their judgment above your own? Why do you let their voices drown out your own instincts, your own desires, your own sense of what is right? If you really step back and think about it, most of the people whose approval you're chasing won't even matter in a few years. Some of them won't even matter in a few months. And yet here you are, shaping your life, making your decisions, suppressing your true self because you're afraid of their opinions. That's insanity. You have to understand this. People will judge you no matter what you do. You could play it safe, follow every rule, live the most uncontroversial life possible, and still someone will find a reason to dislike you. So if you're going to be judged anyway, why not be judged for being yourself? Why not be judged for standing up for what you actually believe in? Why not be judged for pursuing the life that truly matters to you rather than the one that looks good from the outside? And here's the truth. Once you stop chasing external validation, you become dangerous. Not in a reckless or harmful way, but in a way that makes you unshakable. Because now you're not bending, you're not watering yourself down to make others comfortable. You're not seeking permission to be who you are, you simply are. And that kind of person, one who doesn't need applause, who doesn't need constant reassurance, who moves with conviction, is rare. And rare things are valuable. When you stop needing validation, you shift your energy. You stop focusing on how you appear and you start focusing on who you actually are. You stop looking outward for approval and you start looking inward for alignment. And that's where real power comes from. Not from being liked, not from being admired, but from knowing deep in your core that you are living in truth. Most people will never experience that kind of freedom. They'll spend their lives carefully curating an image, terrified of stepping outside the lines society has drawn for them. But that doesn't have to be you. You can choose differently. You can choose to stop letting the world tell you who to be. You can choose to stop asking for permission to be yourself. You can choose to walk your own path regardless of who approves. And when you do that, when you finally break free from the need to be validated, you'll realize something profound. You were never really trapped. You just had to give yourself permission to walk away. Energy is everything. It determines how you show up in the world, how you think, how you act, how much effort you put into your own life. But most people don't realize how much of their energy is being stolen from them, drained, wasted, thrown away on things that weaken them rather than strengthen them. And the worst part, they allow it. They invite it in. They tolerate it day after day until they have nothing left for themselves. You see this all the time. People surround themselves with negativity and wonder why they feel exhausted. They consume garbage mentally, emotionally, physically, and wonder why they have no motivation. They spend their time with people who drain them, habits that weaken them, distractions that rob them of their focus. And then they complain that they feel stuck, that they don't have the energy to change, that they don't have the willpower to push forward. But the truth is, they've been giving their energy away to the wrong things, and now they're running on empty. And this is where people go wrong. They think exhaustion comes from working too hard, from pushing themselves, from striving towards something. But that's not the kind of exhaustion that destroys you. The exhaustion that destroys you comes from misalignment. It comes from spending your time and energy on things that don't serve you. It comes from being pulled in 100 different directions by forces that don't care about your well-being, your future, or your growth. It comes from investing in things that take from you but give nothing back. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what's draining me? Because if you don't identify the things that are robbing you of your energy, you'll never have the strength to move forward. Is it the people around you, the ones who constantly complain, who fill your mind with doubt, who discourage you from aiming higher, the ones who expect your time, your attention, your energy, but offer nothing but negativity in return? Is it the distractions you indulge in, the endless scrolling, the meaningless entertainment, the mindless habits that eat away at your time and leave you feeling empty? Is it your own thoughts, the self-doubt, the overthinking, the endless worrying about things that don't even matter? You need to be ruthless with this. You need to look at every aspect of your life and ask yourself, is this making me stronger or weaker? If it's making you weaker, it needs to go, period. Because every moment you spend on something that drains you is a moment you could have spent on something that builds you. Every ounce of energy wasted on negativity is energy that could have been used for growth, for discipline, for action. And you don't get that time back. But here's the challenge. Letting go isn't easy. Cutting out the things that drain you means stepping away from familiarity. It means making hard choices. It means walking away from people who expect you to stay the same. It means breaking habits that bring short-term comfort but long-term weakness. And most people aren't willing to do that. Most people would rather stay tired, stay stuck, stay miserable. Because at least it's familiar. Because at least they don't have to face the discomfort of change. But if you want to shift your energy, if you want to take back control of your life, you can't afford to be like most people. You have to be willing to make the hard decisions. You have to be willing to say no to toxic people, to distractions, to anything that isn't moving you forward. You have to guard your energy like your life depends on it. Because in a way it does. And here's the beautiful part. When you start eliminating what drains you, you free up space for what fuels you. You start gaining momentum. You start feeling clearer, sharper, more focused. You stop waking up feeling exhausted before the day even begins. You stop letting other people's negativity take root in your mind. You start using your energy for yourself, on your goals, your growth, your purpose. And that's when everything changes. Because the truth is, you are not weak, you are not incapable, you are just surrounded by things that are making you weak. Remove them, and you will see who you really are. Remove them, and you will become Discipline is the foundation of a strong life. It's not just about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. It's about building a structure that allows you to become the person you're capable of being. Most people live in chaos, reacting to whatever happens, hoping that somehow things will just fall into place. But life doesn't work that way. You don't stumble into success. You don't accidentally become strong. You build it. And you build it through discipline. Without discipline, you are at the mercy of your impulses. And your impulses don't have your best interests in mind. Your impulses tell you to hit the snooze button, to skip the workout, to put things off until tomorrow. Your impulses tell you to seek comfort, to avoid challenge, to stay exactly where you are. And if you listen to them, you will stay weak, you will stay stuck, you will live a life dictated by whatever emotion happens to be strongest in the moment. That is no way to live. You need to take control. You need to build systems that override your emotions, that keep you moving forward even when you don't feel like it. And this is where routine comes in. Routine is not just a schedule. It's a declaration of who you are. Every action, every habit, every choice you repeat daily shapes your identity. If your routine is sloppy, your life will be sloppy. If your routine is strong, your life will be. It's that simple. People misunderstand discipline. They think it's restrictive. They think it's about punishment, about forcing yourself into a rigid, joyless existence. But that's not discipline. That's a lack of understanding. Real discipline is freedom. It's the ability to trust yourself, to know that no matter what, you will show up and do what needs to be done. It's the ability to move through life with confidence because you are in control. Look at the most successful, the most powerful, the most effective people. They don't wake up and just hope they'll feel motivated. They don't wait for inspiration to strike before they take action. They have a structure, they have non-negotiable habits, they have discipline, and that's why they win. Because when the weak are making excuses, when the undisciplined are waiting for the right moment, they are already miles ahead. So ask yourself, what does my daily routine say about me? Because whether you realize it or not, your habits are shaping your future. If you spend every morning scrolling mindlessly on your phone, if you constantly push things off until later, if you let your emotions dictate your actions, You are programming yourself for mediocrity. And mediocrity is a slow death. You need to take control. You need to start small, but start now. Wake up at the same time every day. Set a morning routine that sets the tone for success. Plan your day with intention. Stick to commitments even when you don't feel like it. Train yourself to do hard things, not because they're easy, but because they make you stronger. Because every time you follow through, you are proving to yourself that you are capable. And that belief, that inner certainty, will carry you through the moments when motivation fails. The key is consistency. Discipline is not about intensity. It's about showing up day after day, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching. And at first it will be hard. It will feel unnatural, even painful. But over time, it will become who you are. And when that happens, everything changes. Because now, you don't need motivation. You don't need external pressure. You are driven from within. This is how you take back your life. Not through grand gestures, not through temporary bursts of effort, but through the relentless, disciplined execution of your vision, through the quiet daily commitment to being better than you were yesterday. And when you master that, when you stop negotiating with yourself, when you stop breaking promises to yourself, there is nothing you won't be able to achieve. Complaining is the language of the powerless. It's the act of pointing at everything outside yourself and saying, this is why I'm stuck. This is why I can't move forward. This is why my life isn't what I want it to be. And the more you do it, the weaker you become. Because every time you complain, you are reinforcing the idea that you have no control, that you are a victim of your circumstances, that the world is unfair and you are helpless against it. But here's the truth. Complaining changes nothing. Not your situation, not your future, not your level of success. It might feel good in the moment. It might even earn you sympathy from others. But it doesn't move you forward. It doesn't solve problems. It doesn't make you stronger. It just keeps you trapped in the same cycle, repeating the same frustrations, waiting for someone or something to fix your life for you. And no one is coming to do that. At some point, you have to make a choice. You can keep focusing on what's wrong, on what's unfair, on all the reasons why things are difficult, or you can take responsibility. You can shift your focus from what's missing to what you can do. Because the moment you stop complaining and start acting, everything changes. Think about it. How much time do people waste talking about their problems? How much energy is spent rehashing the same frustrations over and over again instead of actually working toward a solution? People say they're stuck, but they don't take action. They say they're unhappy, but they don't make a change. They say they want more, but they don't do what's necessary to get it. And then they wonder why nothing improves. The reality is this: life is not fair. It never has been, and it never will be. Some people are born with advantages. Some people have an easier path. But sitting around complaining about it won't make your life better. The only thing that will make your life better is deciding that no matter what obstacles you face, you will move forward anyway. That no matter how difficult things are, you will take action. That you will not sit and wait for someone to hand you an easier path. You will carve your own. But here's the catch. Taking action is hard. It requires effort. It requires discipline. It requires you to step outside of your comfort zone. And that's why so many people avoid it. Complaining is easy. It requires nothing from you. But action, that demands something. It demands responsibility. It demands ownership. It demands that you look in the mirror and say, this is on me. My life is my responsibility. No one else is coming to fix it. And that's a hard thing to accept, but it's also liberating. Because if your problems are someone else's fault, then you have no power. But if they're your responsibility, then you have control. You have the ability to change things. This is the shift that separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. The moment you stop focusing on problems and start focusing on solutions, You begin to take your power back. You begin to see opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. You begin to move forward, even if the progress is slow. Because action, no matter how small, is infinitely more powerful than sitting around doing nothing. And the truth is, most people already know what they need to do. They know the habits they need to break, the steps they need to take, the excuses they need to stop making. But they don't do it. Because it's easier to talk than to act. It's easier to complain than to change. But easy is not the path to strength. Easy is not the path to success. Easy is the path to regret. So you have to decide. Will you be the person who waits, the person who complains, the person who sits on the sidelines wishing things were different, or will you be the person who takes action? The person who steps up, who does the work, who refuses to let excuses dictate their life. That choice is yours. But understand this, your future will be shaped by what you do, not by what you talk about. And when you finally stop complaining and start moving, you will realize that the power to change your life was in your hands all along. Life is not static. You are either growing or you are decaying. There is no in between. And the mistake most people make is believing that they can stay the same, that they can coast through life, avoiding discomfort, refusing to change, and somehow still be okay. But that's not how it works. The moment you stop pushing yourself forward, the moment you decide you've done enough, that's the moment you start to wither. Because stagnation is just another word for decline. Growth is not optional, it is necessary. If you are not actively improving yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, then the world will move on without you. Life does not pause to wait for those who refuse to evolve. The challenges don't get easier. The obstacles don't disappear. The only thing that changes is you. You become stronger, more capable, more resilient, or you get left behind. And the choice you make determines everything. But here's what holds people back. Growth is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, to admit that you don't know everything, that you are not as strong, as disciplined, as capable as you could be. And that's a hard thing to accept. It's far easier to settle, to stay within your comfort zone, to convince yourself that where you are now is good enough. But deep down, you know it's not. You know that you could be more. And that's why there's a part of you that feels restless, unsatisfied, because something inside you is telling you that you are meant for more, that you have not yet reached your potential. The problem is, most people ignore that voice. They drown it out with distractions, with meaningless entertainment, with temporary comforts that keep them pacified. And the longer they do that, the quieter that voice becomes, until eventually it disappears. And when that happens, they settle. They accept mediocrity. They stop striving, stop challenging themselves, stop pushing towards something greater. They become passive participants in their own lives. And that is the true tragedy. Not failure, not struggle, but the choice to remain the same when you know you could have been more. You cannot allow that to happen. You have to make a decision to commit yourself to relentless improvement, to never allow complacency to take root in your life. And that means seeking out discomfort, chasing challenges, putting yourself in situations that force you to grow. It means looking at every weakness, every flaw, every shortcoming, not with shame, not with self-pity, but with determination. Because the moment you recognize where you are lacking, you also recognize where you have room to grow. And that is the beginning of transformation. But here's the thing, growth is not a one-time decision. It's not something you do for a few months and then stop once you've reached a certain level. It is a lifelong pursuit. There is no final destination, no point where you can say, I've done enough, I can relax now. Because the moment you do that, you begin to slip backward. The world is constantly evolving, and if you are not evolving with it, you are falling behind. That's why the most successful, the most powerful, the most effective people in the world are never satisfied. They are constantly learning, constantly improving, constantly refining themselves. Not because they aren't good enough, but because they understand that they can always be better. And that mindset is what separates those who thrive from those who merely exist. So you have to ask yourself, am I growing or am I standing still? Am I challenging myself, pushing myself, demanding more from myself? Or am I settling, choosing comfort over progress, making excuses instead of taking action? Because the answer to that question will tell you everything about where you are headed. The truth is, there is no limit to what you can become. There is no ceiling on your potential. The only limits are the ones you place on yourself, the doubts, the fears, the excuses. But the moment you decide to let go of those, the moment you commit to constant, relentless improvement, you will begin to see what you are truly capable of. And once you catch a glimpse of that, you will never want to settle again. Your life is shaped by what you choose to focus on. If you waste your energy chasing validation, clinging to toxic influences, indulging in complaints, and avoiding discipline, then you will remain stuck, weak, resentful, and lost. But the moment you shift your energy inward, the moment you take full responsibility for your growth, everything changes. Because now you are no longer at the mercy of your circumstances. Now you are in control. This is not an easy path. It demands discipline, it requires sacrifice, it forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself. But there is no other way forward. Strength is not given, it is earned. And if you want to become something more, you have to do the work, day after day, step by step, pushing forward even when it's difficult, even when no one is watching. The choice is yours. You can continue drifting through life, hoping things will change on their own, waiting for an external force to save you, or you can take action. You can reclaim your energy, eliminate distractions, commit to relentless self-improvement, and create a life that is strong, meaningful, and entirely your own. No one else can do it for you. But if you choose this path, if you decide to truly focus on yourself and shift your energy toward growth, you will become someone unrecognizable to the person you are today, someone stronger, someone capable, someone unstoppable.